Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. My name is Sarah Emmons, and I am the Operations Manager for the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation. And I am also serving as the Deputy Designated Federal Official for this EV Working Group. I want to go ahead and welcome everyone, and we can get started on the third and final of our November 3 meeting series here. So let me go ahead and kick things off. The requisite recording language here, let me go ahead and run through that, and then I'll hand this over to our moderators. So a reminder, as with the other meetings, that this one will also be recorded and will also be published on the EV Working Group page within driveelectric.gov. If you do not wish to have your voice recorded, please do not speak during the meeting. And if you do not wish to have your image recorded, please turn off your camera or participate by phone. If you speak during the call or use a video connection, you're presumed to consent to recording and use of your voice or image. So let me go ahead and introduce our facilitators, Rachel Sack with the Volpe Center at DOT, and one of our Joint Office Senior Advisors, Scott Kubley. So Rachel and Scott will again be leading our discussion for today's meeting. Rachel, handing it over to you.
Thanks, Sarah, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining for our third and final meeting of this series. I'm just going to take a moment to review our agenda, and then we'll dive in. So for those joining us from the public today, we'll walk you through the process as well. As a reminder, just raise your hands when you do have a comment to add and mute yourself when you're not talking. Many of you are on video, so if you are talking, it'd be great to see you if we can. For our agenda today, we've shared a document that is a compilation of all of the work you've been doing over the 2 meetings from last week and earlier this week. So our goal today is to review that document and work towards finalizing some recommendations that you are ready to vote on. So we will momentarily be sharing on the screen a document that has been shared with the working group members that represents this compilation. We'll allow everyone about 10 or 15 minutes to review the document on the screen or on your computer if you have the link to the file. And that will allow us to all literally get on the same page. At that point, we're going to ask for any final comments or questions that refer to the intent of what is described in our recommendations, noting that any wordsmithing or final cleanup will happen afterwards. For our purposes today, I think we're going to expedite that comment process and lead into voting while we have a quorum especially, so that we can hear from all of our members and then open it up for our public comment period at the end. I believe that is our process. Am I right, Scott and Sarah?
Correct.
Okay. And then we'll wrap up with what has been voted on at that time. So for our public members, just note the public comment period will be at the conclusion of our discussion and after voting. And now I'll hand it over to Scott so we can work through the document.
Excellent, Rachel. I think you said it perfectly, which is we're going to have 15 minutes of silence from the working group members as they all do one final read through of the document. So that is intentional. Once we're done with that, I'll start calling on the working group members one by one to provide their kind of final comments, and then we'll move quickly to a vote. So with that, I'm going to turn it on mute and start reading the document myself.
Let's go ahead and have everybody mute their phones and just reiterate to folks the exact time that will come off mute. So let's see, it's 11:11 my time. So at 26 after, we will jump back online.
If people don't need that long, we could even ask in 10 minutes if people need more time, because it might go quicker.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and reconnect at 22 after. Thanks.
just doing the 10-minute time check to make sure, to see if everybody's done or if they need a few more minutes.
This is Andy Koblenz. I'm ready to go.
Mark Dad, ready to go.
I'm ready to.
Ready also.
Ready as well.
Is
Ready.
anybody not quite ready yet? Okay, great. Does anybody have any public or comments that they'd want to make? Any of the EV working group have any comments? And I'll just ask Kim to go down the list of attendees. Oh, we have Andy. And anybody that does have comments, please feel free to make them. And again, you know, any edits, these would be things that would prevent you from voting yes. So comments great, but if there are additional edits, let's limit them to points that you'd make to prevent you from voting yes. Kim?
Scott, do you want us to start with the hands raised, or do you want to go member by member?
All right. I can go member.
Sorry. Yeah,
by
let's
member.
let's just go member by member, and if nobody has a comment, then that's just fine.
Okay, so first up, we have Andy.
Okay, I'm up first. So I have two comments. They're both substantive, but they can easily be solved by edits. And they're on the two charging network recommendations. In the audience, under recommendation 1, it says that the audience is the general public, rental car customers, and dealerships. I believe that the audience is dealership customers. It's a significant point. It's on page 2 of the document. It's in the audience. Go up there, audience. Whoop, you were right above the screenshots. Go up a little more. It says audience, general public, rental car customers, and dealerships. It's dealership customers. It's not, the dealerships are not the people we're going for. It's the people shopping at the dealerships that are the target. I believe, and that's important to us. And then similarly, in recommendation 2, if you go down to the recommendation itself, it talks about the EV working group recommends the development of a consumer effort. It's actually not a consumer effort, it's a consumer facing effort. Again, it's the just misplacement of who the object is. It's a consumer. The effort will be done by us and by the certifier, but it's facing the consumer.
Excellent.
So those are 2 edits. And I'll just point out that you have the example of the NCAP and Energy Star in here twice. That's not going to stop me from voting for it, but
we'll take that sort of edit out as
Yep.
we're cleaning up the document.
That's fine. Those were my comments. Thank you.
Excellent.
Next, we have Dean.
Yeah, 1 second. All right, so
And
I have.
if you all could just mention what page you're going to reference first, that will help me out immensely. Thanks.
And again, I just want to reiterate, happy to make minor edits that are substantive and impacting a vote, but if there are things that can be handled in cleanup, let's hold those. Let's hold on editing those.
Reference page 5, recommendation 3. We've chatted about this via email. We did not mean to specifically exclude fuel cell EVs. I know, Scott, you've already addressed that in another comment, but we just need to make sure we clean it up that it's not BEVs, it's EVs. So
We, on that, Dean, the wording now in the document, as I was making the edit as we opened, includes hydrogen propelled vehicles. So it includes hydrogen fuel cell and
Great.
hydrogen combustion per Rakesh's suggestion.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
And the only other comment I have is, I think on page 8, grid recommendation 6, support infrastructure investments. I think the word in the second sentence is urgently collaborate. That puts it a little too strong for me. I would like the word urgent to be changed to something a little bit more manageable by the government. That's all I have.
Can I make a quick comment on, I guess just to be clear, like that recommendation is not unique to just government taking action, but all of those stakeholders taking action. So I don't know if that changes your thought, but that these groups need to urgently collaborate. How strong are you on that? I think I don't think it's inappropriate. I mean, to say urgently collaborate.
It will not prevent me from voting yes, so I'm good.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Dean. Danielle,
I don't have any further comments. Thank you.
excellent. David?
Yes, I have a question. Maybe it's editorial, maybe it's not. On recommendation 7 from the grid integration on managed charging. There's a few references to auto OEMs, standards organizations, EV providers, and utilities. I think it's important to have both auto and the medium heavy duty vehicle manufacturers, not just autos, both for the managed charging. The fact that they use different communication protocols involving both groups explicitly is probably important for this topic.
Excellent.
If
Is
we
this,
change, if, just really quickly, David, if we change the word auto to vehicle OEMs, does that not capture medium? And I hear what you're saying, because you're saying you're not just trying to does vehicle OEMs capture medium, heavy duty, and light manufacturers?
It may to some, it may not to others. If there's,
I would say the type of managed charging here is more likely to be the light duty than the other. I think changing it to vehicle OEMs is not bad. I'll let the people figuring out the details so we pick it up. There are types of managed charging that are depot charging that are maybe a little different. The team talked about. But vehicle's not a bad thing. Flexibility.
okay.
I think it's a good comment.
So,
right, as long as we make sure, because the passenger car market and the truck car market do use different communication protocols. And so if there's standards that are developed and the utility is going to rely on being able to talk to either a depot or something else, it would be probably important to try and harmonize them on the front end.
So we'll make that update to vehicle. Let me see who we have next. Henrik?
I have no further comments.
Thank you. Barack?
No, I think everything looks really well. From my standpoint, I didn't really see anything that sticks out. I mean, other than just small edits that can be done and clean up.
Excellent. Cassie?
Nope, it looks good to me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Crystal?
Looks great. Love the new formatting and the way you combined everything. So it looks good. Thanks.
Thank you. Young?
Just a clarifying recommendation on page 7, recommendation 7 for managed charging. I think for public consumption purposes, recommend if there's a way to explain what managed charging is in the headline itself, rather than right now it's in the background. I think if you walk down the street and just say that, or even for EV conversant folks, may be helpful to just add a little more descriptive language as a headline.
Excellent. Are folks comfortable with us handling that and clean up?
I would be.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Kelsey?
No further comments. Thank you.
Excellent. Mark?
No comments.
Nadia?
No further comments.
Excellent. Vicky?
Also, no further comments. Thank you.
Excellent. Rakesh?
Yeah, my key comment was the inclusion of hydrogen propelled in both recommendations 3 and 8. And per Michael's earlier comment, I understand that's been addressed. So thank you for that. No additional comments.
Ruth?
I have 2 smaller ones. Page 10 of 12 in the recommendation. The second line reads utility and other key decision makers. I would think about if key stakeholders is more appropriately, because it implies that everybody's got a decision authority that we've listed here. May not be 100% correct. Then on page 10, sorry, the next page, when we go into managed charging, in the opening, we talk about utilities, auto OEMs, and or standards organizations, EV service providers. We have other relevant stakeholders. I would just suggest maybe calling out charging equipment manufacturers as well, because if you don't get the charger to charge bidirectional, or I might make that controllable, then this whole thing wouldn't work. So just maybe put more emphasis on this.
Ruth, I will note, and it's kind of buried the way this got reoriented, that EV service / equipment providers down in the second paragraph under background, it's defined as
okay, I see. Yeah, okay.
Equipment, software, and service providers, collectively EV service / equipment providers.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, it just kind of got a little bit as it got reordered. And then I'm fine with stakeholders versus decision makers if others are on the prior recommendation.
Yep, good suggestion, I think, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree.
Hearing no objections to that, so we'll replace auto with vehicle OEM as well as another kind of cleanup that I see as well. And I see it showing up in a couple different places, and we can edit that after the fact. Denise, I see your comment that you support and have no comments, so thank you for that. And finally, Kofi.
Everybody, no comments.
Excellent. That is great to hear. Okay, so it sounds like we can do a vote by acclamation versus declination this time. So what I would like to do is take everybody off mute, and if all of the working group members that want to vote in affirmation of these as the final recommendations, please say aye.
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 Okay, if there's any nays, now's your time. Unmute and vote nay.
The dog.
Excellent. The dog. The dog.
Yeah, that was Oliver.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so
Dog
that he's not officially a working group member. I've heard there's no designees or whatnot, so his vote will not count. So we have a unanimous vote to approve these recommendations. So I think we are good. I'd like to now, if we can, move to the public comment period, and then it looks like we will be able to maintain a quorum through the entire public comment period. So I know, Danielle, you had to leave at about, or somebody on the panel had to leave at about 45 minutes. So that should be fine. But anybody else that needs to leave, that is a working group member, just raise your hand so we can make sure we maintain a quorum during the public comment period. Thank you.
Great. So at this time, we're going to open up the public comment period. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak, please raise your hand and we will call on you. The hand is in the reactions icon in Zoom. Each individual will have 2 minutes to share their comments, and you will be able to unmute yourself and turn your video on when I call on you. As a reminder, you can also submit written comments to the working group email address, evwg@ee.doe.gov, or mail your comments to Dr. Rachel Mueller as described in the Federal Register notice, and those received within 10 business days will be included in the meeting minutes. So at this time, are there any members of the public who would like to provide a comment?
And again, you may
for
do
those,
so by raising your hand.
Yes. I don't see any hands raised at the moment. I just wanted to reiterate, as was stated in the comments, that the outcome from today's meeting will be made public on the website driveelectric.gov/EV working group once it is finalized and approved. So thank you for your patience as we work towards this goal. And Scott, I don't see any hands, so I think we will conclude our public comment period for today's meeting.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank all of the working group members for participating the last 3 meetings. I know it's a lot of time to dedicate to block off 6 hours of your schedule over a 1-week period. So thank you very much for that. Michael, you have a comment.
Just, it sounded like you were going to wrap up and dismiss us. Maybe just a quick. Were you
Sure.
going to do that? Okay. I think so this will be posted, right? Sounds like on the website like we did last time. Presumably it will also be transmitted to the two secretaries who are the chairs and sponsoring people and gave us the charge with kind of a, I assume Scott or the staff kind of just gins up a general letter stating that and sending it to them.
Correct. Yeah. So this will all the documents will be posted publicly. The joint office team will pull together kind of we'll do copy editing to make sure, there's, all the punctuation is in the right place. We'll design a kind of a final document. We'll distribute it to the group. We'll share it with the public. We'll put it up on our website, and then we'll transmit it to the secretaries. Rachel?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit of an update there. We actually transmit it to the secretaries before we put it out publicly because we just have some internal processing to do. I will flag, we built this into the schedule. It will probably take us a week or two to do that, as it did the first report. So I just wanted to set expectations that if you start checking the website every day now, waiting for those recommendations to come up, it might take a little while, especially around the holidays. So we are committed for it to be out by the end of the year. It might take us a little bit of time to process. Thank you.
That is true. If you are searching for it, though, you will help our SEO, which is always valuable for spreading the word. So don't hesitate to Google it. Just don't expect that it will be up there for a couple weeks. And with that, I just want Rachel, go ahead. Your hand is still raised. Okay, you're good. Okay, I want to Henrik?
I was just wondering if there was going to be any like social media, like a LinkedIn push of the recommendations as well that helps picking things up.
Yes, I can't imagine that we would not be able to get that up and out there. We definitely want to promote the work that the group is doing, and then that DOE, DOT, and the joint office are doing. Rachel?
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Henrik, I think actually one of the most valuable pieces of all of this is the networks that every individual, every representative in this group brings to the table. So we will make sure that you have what you need to also share it on LinkedIn and social media, because we want to make sure these recommendations are highly utilized.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Are there any other comments from members of the group before we adjourn?
Good job, Scott. Thank you very much for helping guide us through here the last few months.
It's been my pleasure. I did not actually do that much work other than cutting and pasting. But I appreciate that. Thank you. And
to Rachel and Rachel as well.
Yep, exactly. Yes, thank you very much. And I see a question that is from the public comment period. I will respond to that. That is a conversation that will come in the how portion of handling these recommendations. The question was, is there any funding available to further these recommendations? Dean, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, briefly, but I'll withdraw the question. I was going to say, what is the next step? But I think I understand we need to withdraw till we understand what happens next.
Correct. Excellent. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.